Yeah, really tough evening. It goes without saying. Most people can see that. However, there were some moments, even through a difficult first period, where I thought they were certainly the better team and, showed some excellent qualities. I thought there were moments where, given the sights of goal, we've seen it before away from home, and we know that goals change games, that there was that opportunity there to put ourselves in a better spot. That doesn't detract from the fact that for large portions of the game, they were better than us. They were better than us with the ball on a difficult surface. They played with tremendous energy. And whilst I felt that the goal might get us back into a more positive position, obviously that wasn't to be.
We are going to open the floor for questions now. We'll kick it off with Tim Sullivan. Tim?
Hey, Gary, you mentioned goals change games. It seemed like you guys were content to let them possess as long as they didn't do anything with it. And then once they got the penalty, you guys had to be a little bit more proactive going forward. How did that change what you guys were able to do? And then how did that kind of affect the outcome of the game in the long run?
Yeah, look, it wasn't as cut and dried as that, Tim. Two very different systems and styles. And they managed the ball better than we did on this surface, which gave them a far stronger base and platform to work from. There were some difficulties, technically dealing with the ball, dealing with the pace of the game, dealing with the surface, and it became more and more apparent that if we were going to get any traction, we might have to change one or two things. Unfortunately, the goal, in all fairness, comes from an innocuous situation, if I'm being honest. And, to concede a penalty in that fashion, of course, it's hugely frustrating, and it gives them a bit of a shot in the arm and the boost they probably needed.
Greg Fields.
Gary, after the Hani got the goal back with the penalty, the way that the goals that you guys gave up, what do you make about the man of the space, particularly with Ben Bender's cross into Sergio Ruiz and how Ruiz kind of gets in there? Do you think the theme was, did you feel like the team was defeated in a way or maybe frustrated with how the game was going?
No, not at all. I think we got stretched. I think there were guys trying to put themselves in a position to recover the game. There were some exposed moments for sure. And there's no doubt when you change shape, which we did from a back five to a back four, there are some connections and some relationships that are different. They took full advantage of the moments that they had. Their execution was terrific. And, we have to look at the performance and the result tonight and not only take it on the chin, but there needs to be a bit of a deeper look inside as to what's going to be needed moving forward to get our form back on track. We've had a couple of disappointing results tonight. He's certainly thrown into that category. It's rare that we concede as many goals as we have tonight, so you can imagine that there's a few chins on chests in there. But we've got games coming thick and fast, and we have an opportunity on Wednesday night to come out in a far more positive and aggressive manner.
Claudio Villalobos.
Thank you, Christina. Gary, when you decide to make the switch to the back four line, at that moment, do you think that the game was still at the reach, or was it just a form of trying to see what else was there? Even though, to me at least, it was kind of clear that the Charlo was better for most of the game. When you do the change, what was your thought process right there?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit there, Claudio. So I think I got the gist of it. I changed shape 30 odd minutes into the game because we were struggling to get any traction. We found it very difficult to impose our will on the game, our style on the game, our shape on the game. And they were effectively better than us than what they did. And I felt as though an extra midfield player was needed. certainly a more front foot approach was needed. Of course, we were 1-0 down, but without throwing caution to the wind, we had to be more positive in the way that we looked at the game. But I think also the guys probably needed a little bit of a lift and a slightly different perspective. The changes at the break were just really to reinforce that. We'd already gone to a back four. You know, as well as Jack has done for us, he isn't a natural right back, and that was a consideration to bring Eric in and give us a little bit more balance. And then Brian, more importantly, was sitting on a yellow card. I just thought that moving forward to give us a little bit more edge, the 2 changes were necessary. And in many ways, I thought we saw some more aggressive actions, certainly opportunities, but tonight, not the execution that we needed.
We're going to go back to Tim Sullivan.
Hey, Gary, you mentioned it was one of the worst defeats you guys have faced. It is the worst defeat. You guys have never lost by 3. You guys had never given up 4 goals in the MLS era. How do you bounce back from it? Are there lessons that you take, or do you just say, we got to forget this and get back to what we are normally more like?
Well, I think there's a little bit more to it than that, Tim. I do believe that, you know, all teams go through periods where either results, form, or just the outlook of the group it dips, and you're not in as positive a position as you were 3 or 4 games ago. We're in one of those runs where, you know, we've given up 2 goals weekend just gone. We've obviously conceded tonight. We're having to contend with things that we haven't done before. And I think the very best teams are able to recover from that. They're able to refocus. They're able to double down on the things that they do well, and reinforce those qualities. And that's really where we have to start. We've got 2 tough games coming up, so we'll take Wednesday night as the first of those. And we need to look at how our home form has looked over the last couple of games, and how we're going to put ourselves in a more positive position. And that really will be the focus. But along this line, there's a lot of learning to be done. There's a lot of growing to be done. And I don't think there's an individual or a team, as I've said, that hasn't suffered disappointment. And if you're gonna rebound, you need to dig deep, and you need to find the characters in the group and the qualities that we've seen before.
Greg Hills.
The midweek schedule isn't anything new to you guys, obviously, with Open Cup. Here we go again with that. Do you think, particularly in midfield, but also out on the wings, that the depth in behind your starters has been able to keep that standard for you guys? Or are you worried about the depth in the squad, given how you guys are going back into the 3 games in 8 days schedule?
Oh, not at all. I mean, have a look at the starting group out there today. We've had nearly a week to prepare for today. And we had a very strong group out, a group that we've seen on multiple occasions that have played well. And in fact, you know, up until tonight, our away form has been very, very good. It's stood up well. And, you know, tonight we've fallen foul of a very good performance from Charlotte. In terms of strength, depth, the ability to rotate, I don't have any issues with the guys that I've brought into the game. I don't see any problems with the group, other than we've discussed before. That if we find someone that can improve the group, then we'll do our very best to add that player. Up until tonight, there was just some disappointment. Some disappointment at losing a 2-goal lead, some disappointment that we hadn't won as many at home as we might have liked. But I was reminded after the Portland game, I think we've lost 3 games in 2.5 years. Is that right, at home? So, you know, if you look at our form at home in general, we have something strong to lean on there. What has to improve, and everyone on this call will understand that, is that how we manage games, how we start games, and the attitude that we bring to games has got to be at the very forefront of how we play on Wednesday night. For starters, that's where we start.
We have time for one more question for Coach. Claudio, go ahead.
Gary, one thing that stays on my mind the last couple of games is that perhaps, and I might be completely wrong here, but then I'd like to have your take on this. I've seen like Waker Zimmerman, just to give an example. I mean, this is a collective effort, and you lose or win, everyone. But I've seen how he tries to step up a little bit in certain types of the game. And the other teams have been able to draw him out of his comfort box. And that creates a lot of problems for Nashville. I'm not sure if I'm looking at this correctly, but I've been noticing that, and that didn't happen before. I mean, Walker is one that stays there, is the leader, but now his leadership is kind of giving me, asking him to do something else. And when he steps up, it's when those problems are more obvious. Is that correct or not?
I understand what you're saying, Claudio. I think maybe the answer is in his eagerness to try and influence the game, whether that's defensively, get tight to players, be more intense. He's a leader by example. You can see some of the aerial challenges that he wants to win, needs to win, and to raise the spirits of the group. There are also occasions where he's trying to kickstart an attack, to be more creative, to give us a little bit more energy. So I'm not going to, in any way, shape or form, criticise that, because we need that in as many positions as possible. Just as a generalisation for any team, though, there are certain qualities, there are certain fundamentals that lead you to victory, lead you to success. And we've got to be careful that we don't just go chasing games because we go a goal down. We've not done that before. We've shown, good culture. We've shown good composure. We've battled our way back into games. The difficulty tonight was that we ran into a good side. They've played well here. Let's give Charlotte a tremendous amount of credit. They played with tremendous intensity. The finishing was magnificent. And for large portions of the game, they were better than us. Some days you just have to say that. I've not said it very often. But tonight they were better than us. And we'll walk away from here. And my hope is that we'll be better for it come Wednesday night and the next 200.
It's never fun to lose, let alone 4-1. We got ourselves back in the game there in the second half. And we were in it until they scored their third goal. So that's frustrating. And then to give up the fourth as a consolation piece, it's not good enough. We're not used to giving up that many goals in a game, and it's just probably not a good enough performance from us. But it's a quick turnaround. We have two really big games this week that we have to get our minds wrapped around playing and try and move on quickly from this one.
Team Sullivan with the first question.
Yeah, Walker, you mentioned that you guys aren't used to giving up that many goals. It is the first time you guys have given up 4 goals ever. I know the fourth goal doesn't really affect the outcome, but how do you guys get back to what you're more used to being defensively?
Yeah, I mean, the goals they're sloppy. I don't know how many goals we've been giving up this year again with set pieces, PKs, or recycled set pieces. But it just puts us in a bad spot early. So that's not fun to try and recover from, dig yourself out of a hole, because then you're obviously pushing forward for more goals at the end of the game, and then you give up a lot more counterattacks, a lot more moments in transition, and the communication and the sharpness in those moments of transition were not good enough, and that's the reason why you saw the goals that you saw comes down to communication and the quickness to respond to what is being said or not being said, and it's just that's probably more mental than it is physical.
Drake Hills with the next question.
No question for me, Chris.
Claudio Villalobos.
Thank you, Walker. Have you when you talk about transition, at least I've noticed that in the last couple of games, the the other team has been able to actually walk into your half of the field in a more free way. Is that a correct assessment? I mean, is that why you have to step up so much now and try to defend way up when you're used to that than you're more used to be?
I think, yeah, there's definitely been moments of transition that we've allowed, specifically second half Portland, you're right. And this game for sure, we were very stretched. We couldn't get pressure on the ball. We allowed them to keep possession in a way that was probably a little bit too easy. And that's because we were stretched. We weren't as compact as we probably should have been. And yeah, it just allows them to get more rhythm, get more opportunities. And again, when you're chasing a game, you tend to get more stretched. And that's where what we saw tonight was we did start creating opportunities when it was 2-1. We were pushing for a goal, but then balls would get cleared. They'd get, flicked on, and all of a sudden we'd be dropping down deep and defending counterattacks. So, yeah, those are moments that they capitalized on tonight. And again, I think it was lack of sharpness, mental acuteness, and communication issues.
We have one more question from Tim Sullivan.
Walker, you guys made the tactical shift. Obviously, the guys playing next to you, you switched out Jack for Eric, but also the different shape. What did you guys hope to accomplish with that? And, do you feel that even though it didn't work out on the final scoreboard, that the changes helped you guys, start mounting the comeback?
Well, I think we saw against Portland, we started out with 4. We had a lot of good attacking moments and created a lot of good opportunities in that game. And so it's probably a little bit more attacking minded from us. So I think when we went down 1-0 and with how the game had gone up until that point, we were getting really in some trouble with their fullbacks pushing forward, specifically Fuchs, and then he would switch the ball over to the right side and get pressure on their guy in the pocket or their other fullback. So I think the switch was helpful to try and prevent them from doing that so easily. And I think we created a little bit more opportunities. But again, you see in both games that we've let up some goals. And is it because of that formation? I don't think so. But it is something to be aware of that, okay, we are creating more opportunities, but we are letting up some more goals. So I think it's a small sample size to just jump to that conclusion. But it's definitely something to be aware of. I think ultimately having flexibility between 2 shapes could be important, keep teams on their toes, and it adds another component to our team that can make us a little bit more dynamic.